We have a roll call with 14 million. We're gonna make changes to the agenda. Public hearings, awareness, just that. The next meeting gives time to. You know, so with that, any other comments? Supported by Johnson. This we so the minutes for April 27th. We have a chance to take this. We have a motion to accept the motions by Stephen, seconded by Leland to approve the meeting minutes of April 27th. Okay, minutes.
I'm gonna take her is not here, so I'm gonna take her. I have them all. I will
Was there any
get them for you.
changes or comments for the meetings?
Wait a minute. I'm gonna start it over because it didn't get recorded.
The real legal thing?
And I have to have the recording now. Right? No, no, no.
Oh, shoot. I'm sure that is that.
This is this not days that I don't think it is. No, I didn't know it was one, but no, it's. If I knew that was a listening, sure, that sounds great. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so we call over at 7:05. So that's please. All the planning commission members here tonight. Need a motion to adjust the agenda, amend the agenda to the public hearing, administrative review ordinance to the next week. Given the time. Second. Motion by Tom, second by Courtney. Just. Minutes from April 27th, 2023. Motion by Tom, second by Steve. Minutes. Tom, second by Steve. We're open for public comment.
have to go over there and look and see what he's doing. I mean, I mentioned it to the attorney, I probably have to pursue and see what he's doing. Which is interesting, because usually Tyler goes out there and flags them. You wanna state your name for the record? Can you hear that?
So, and you're here with a, plan about the neighbors activities. That's typically something we don't engage in, it's more, so it's very responsible, so. So it would not be a job. Is there anyone else? Okay, public comment is closed. Unfinished business, we move to that, so that we're doing the discussion of the July stuff. So we have a updated copy of
I'm telling you folks. It's really frustrating. I don't have one, and so. It said,
this is Rebecca.
yeah, and so she's working with the attorney who's giving her some tests. To, collaborate on, and I'm just gonna tell him. You know, the first draft, because it won't be a public hearing in July. It'll just be a really, a review, our first draft as a look through. So I was like, no pressure, it can be really in my form, just give me something, so you guys can start looking at it. We'll see.
Okay. Do we need to personally need to run this?
Nope. So on my job to keep, I mean, it isn't. It's a collaboration between her and the attorney. So if she sends it to the attorney's backed up, and as she said, they said to me, everybody in the planning field is backed up right now.
Yeah.
They're just all really busy. And there aren't as many planning firms out there as there used to be.
All right, so things are beyond our control.
Yep, I will do my best to get it moved around to you guys.
So one question, that kind of ties into the survey rules,
Yeah.
is that, is it possible to get a map for consumers to show the wrong height? Now, Rebecca, I'm speaking that, I think as we look at the master plan, junction and lower limits, those areas that are already served by the high pressure infrastructure, it probably makes sense to look at those differently, potentially come up with some sort of solar, so it's saying, we're gonna have it come to these other places that makes no sense.
So there is actually a website you can go to. And I've sent all of y'all a bunch of stuff,
No, it has the map of the power lines.
not the people to log on to it. I don't know if anybody else is ready. I don't even have any problems.
Yeah, because I want to understand how the reader would adopt this ordinance, how to apply it to really potentially be just something like that.
That's a good conversation. I think that's really a valid thing to be looking at, and do you want them always where the high tension power lines are?
I think if we're looking at it, it makes sense to work that the infrastructure is place.
We're not going to build something that's miles and miles and what they need to look into. So it tells you that map can pretty much tell you where things can be located.
So I'd like to see a map of what percent. Understand how, none if we adopt, we adjust the master plan. For this. Zoning ordinance. It's sort of master.
Okay, let me see what we can come up with.
Maybe it's the mystery of what it is. Oh my gosh, it could be people. That's not true. There's just certain places it could be. It's going to be great if we could know it, if we could know it.
Yeah, I think it is. And I think the other thing was, in regards to like the wind, has there been any movement in terms of board? Yeah, for us, for the. As opposed to calling it the solar ordinance. It's kind of a little bit confusing, so capture the so. I know there was some conversation that township board of.
Remember if I mentioned that? I did not.
I don't think so.
What, the,
That it should, that the ordinance should be called with what we're going to do, just for you.
yeah, we talked about that last month. About how the board had agreed to, instead of just solar, is to go with renewable energy ordinance. And so Becky is now charged with doing renewable.
So she's gonna put wind in this part of it. So.
Yeah.
Yes, we really need time to.
But you were asking specifically about wind energy, like what locations.
Yeah, locations and proposing the signs. But some people like this. The other thing is, from what I'm reading in other townships, there's a lot of disconnect. The solar. Wind farms, discourse. Occurring, that's what's important. If you look at this, we keep that in mind also. And also the other point is, you know, is that even geothermal solar is becoming popular. Or they're replacing that.
And that's part of this renewable, that was part of the
Yeah,
wind
we'll
solar.
be looking at geothermal and this area of water based.
I think so, and I think this first look that's gonna be in July is going to be an opportunity for you guys to all pick that apart. You know, it's not even gonna be close to anything, in my opinion, is where you're going to just say, yeah, on it. I think we are going to have an opportunity to say, I don't like this, I do like this. That's gonna be a far more comprehensive new ordinance from the township that's gonna affect a lot of people.
And the question is how do we get feedback?
And we can have that discussion then, because again, this is gonna be our first look at this new ordinance.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Well, under the new business, we have reviewed the master plan survey question. One of the, along similar lines, I didn't see anything. Don't know how do we want to address renewable energies in the survey? I think that's one way to. Engagement of
Okay,
citizens.
so
That's-
you'd like to see something about renewable energy?
Yeah, and what, you know, I think there's. It'd be good to get like, what are the things that they kind of, they like about it, or the things they dislike about it, because. There's a lot of, I'm sure there's a lot of different opinions on there, but it's good.
You want that just a like and don't like, or you want to have
No,
locations?
no, I think it's, I'm throwing it out there, just thinking, I think we need to have something about the global survey.
Okay,
What are the right questions to ask? Throw it out there. So,
It would start that in that topic. We start off by saying the township is going to be writing new ordinance around renewable energy, and then you have the question.
you know, for instance.
okay, I like that.
Yeah. And I think if we could get from the planning consultants, what are the typical big issues that they see on the other issues that they use, or the ones that have the big projects going on, what are the some of the feedback from them? The meetings that it makes sense for the discussion.
Okay, so I'm letting you know, this is your opportunity now, because the survey is going live next week. So whatever you're telling me now, I'm getting back with Beckett and Rader, and they're gonna make the changes to the survey, and it's going live next week.
So those were the primary questions. First, for the master plan for the survey. I don't know if maybe-
I got a whole list of things,
Okay,
so, you can slow down or repeat.
go slow, please.
So, question number 4. This is on the text version, and it could be addressed in the digital version, I mentioned to review that. When they talk about the largest challenge, they believe, green spacing. I would like them to refine that a little bit. When they say largest, do they mean scope? Do they mean scale? Are they talking about importance? Like, what are they trying to elicit?
Scope, scale, I'm sorry, what was it?
Importance? That could mean any number.
Okay. And want that more refined,
Yep.
okay?
Question 5, when it talks about the urban growth boundary, there's some good menu options, but we might want to consider including a question that says, I don't know what the urban growth boundary is. The question sort of presupposes that everybody in the community will know what that is. And I think it's valuable feedback. If we get a large number of responses, people are like, I don't know, what you're talking about. We could do some education.
Okay,
Question 6. They talk about which of the following EF land uses are needed to a greater extent. Are they really talking about which of the following land uses need to be expanded? Is that really where they're going with that? And if so, that might be a more efficient way to say that.
okay, so explain, let's say that one, which of the following land uses need to be I'm sorry,
Need to be expanded
okay,
in the township. That might be a more economical way to say that.
okay,
Question 7. The map talks about townships being divided into areas. But when we get down to the question 7, that first answer choice talks about in any part of the township, it changes the unit. So I would change that to area to be consistent.
okay, so explain, okay,
Yeah. Okay. Okay, good.
okay, so explain it, let's go back to that one again, please.
So on the text, right above the map, it says the following map has the township divided into different areas.
Okay.
So it's referring to the different segments of the township as areas.
Okay,
But in question 7, in the first answer selection, in the scale, it talks about the part. So it changes the unit, it changes how it's referred to, and that creates confusion.
okay,
So in the actual question stem, it says, please identify where in the township agricultural uses should be expanded. So the first answer choice, it talks about expanding, no problem. Then the next 3, actually, the next 4 answer choices, it talks about, it switches to needed. So it's actually measuring something that's not asked in the question.
okay,
So you could change that to, so for instance, B could be changed to, agricultural uses should be expanded to area A. And that would create a uniform measurement there.
okay,
And you could replicate that in the subsequent answer choices. So that the question and the answer choices are in alignment. So otherwise you can mismeasure.
okay,
So when we jump down to A, they say same responses as above. We go to single family residences. They interject the variable permitted. But there's nothing in the answer choices in the scale that measure belief and permission.
okay, say that again, same response, okay, and then single family residences, the residences,
They add the variable permitted to that question, but they use the same scale as in question 7. The scale in question 7, in one part measures expanded, in another part measures needed, a different variable, none of which measure permission. So they're using different measurements to review the variable.
okay,
That same feedback would go for question 9.
Okay.
The same feedback would go for question 10. In question 11, I would have the same feedback with some additional feedback. So they talk about where it should be permitted. But right before that, they asked to identify where in the township uses that permit accessory dwellings. So you've already indicated permitting accessory dwellings. And then they asked about where accessory dwellings should be permitted. So maybe they can eliminate the first permit.
Okay, this is a number 11.
Yep.
Okay, copy it. Where accessory dwelling should be permitted.
No, as they say, please identify where in the township uses that permit accessory dwelling units. No other question that's measuring this viewpoint talks about, like previously permitted. So they could remove that from that particular question, and then assess it through the scale.
You said it's excessive to the scale?
No, they can assess,
Okay.
they can assess the permission with the variable they're trying to measure. So if they work it into the scale appropriately, they can measure that. Generally speaking, I wouldn't recommend multiple variables on a survey question. I understand why they probably did it, to keep it short. But when you have 2 or 3 variables in one question set, and then you're trying to measure that, it gets difficult to measure the differences in the opinion for each variable. People might feel differently about each one of those variables. And there's not a good way with the current scale and the current structure of the question to measure it. So we could miss valuable information. Same for 13. And 14 as well.
Okay, so you didn't have anything for 12.
Same feedback for the other questions. Because the questions are identical, with the exception of 11, they just changed out the use type. Yeah. So it would be the same feedback, particularly if they're going to use the same scale. You know, it would want to. And I think, well, they could have an open-ended text box response question that asks, are there any other areas of use that have not been addressed in this industry? And then people could provide feedback.
Whatever they want to, they're not reading them the paper, they're telling you.
General comments.
And I think that's important because when we look at the demographics and the age span of folks who could be filling this out, this survey has to be accessible for people of any age, people of any education level, people of any familiarity with planning, any familiarity with land usage type. If we want to measure that feedback adequately, we should work that in and make sure that it's accessible for really anybody that wants to provide feedback.
So one thing I have not heard back from them that Sandy had mentioned in an email with the Beckett writer was security. So I don't think in the emails exchanged, we had heard back how they are, make it secure, so one person can't go in and give 100 answers. I mean, obviously that's excessive, but that was Sandy's concern about how do we secure, you have one response and that is your response.
I think they said they use SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey lets you limit the number of responses you could elicit from a particular IP address. And then tracks from an IP address.
Okay,
So then, and on the back end, when you pull the data from SurveyMonkey or Qualtrics, it doesn't collect identifying information, but it does collect IP addresses.
Okay.
So you can see how many IP addresses responded, and if that's incongruent with the number of people that live at that address, you can work with it. So that's the tools have accounted for.
if they do that, I don't know if they will do it, so we would have to.
Well, they should, otherwise it's not download information.
Right, but we will have to make sure that that's what they're doing.
Last time we did this draw, number of demographic questions being in the survey, they may have been.
Yeah, I think in our original, we did. I think we did, we'd have to back, I could actually pull the master plan survey, which has the survey at the back of the document, if you want.
Sort of that's been. Also, people stay on.
I don't think so.
Well, I think that's why they put it at the end, because a lot of times when the demographic info is at the front of the survey, that's where you see most people fail, particularly on income, particularly on age. So I move it to the end, if they decide to discontinue the survey, it'll still, they still answer those preceding questions.
I guess that'd be an interesting. Partial.
I'll send that to you, what the survey is, because I know, now that you mentioned that, it was in the master plan, the 2017 master plan survey,
It's a good school.
yes.
Well, and that might be a good question to ask them as well. How do they treat missing data? So if somebody skips a question, or if somebody forgets a question, if they're doing it in paper and doesn't see the back page, how are they gonna treat that data? Now shut up now.
I got one more.
No, that's good information, thank you.
Mike, I got one more for you, if I can.
What?
Not that would kind of go on Clifford's is, what would stop people from going to different IP addresses and doing it over and over? Or would you,
You couldn't help it. That's never good to do model. I suspect though, someone was doing that, you would see it. I would expect statistically that would pop.
If there were multiple identical instances. Anybody else have anything?
So the website, Carol, is gonna go up. Are we gonna advertise this in like some time? Facebook?
I think that's gonna be up to Beckett later. I mean, this is theirs, we hired them to do this, and that's part of their package, is to get this information. It's going in, tax bills, it's going on the website. We can probably do that ourselves of putting it in the Sun Times, but I don't know where else they're gonna, reach out to it. That was part of their package of what they're supposed to do, which is that question, which was a burning question I was supposed to get an answer for right away, and it's like, and then all of a sudden it didn't seem to be so important to them, about, it's so interesting, folks. I appreciate your responses that they wanted to have this open house in September. So it would be the third Thursday or the fourth Wednesday or Thursday. Because the third Wednesday is ZBA. So, the dates that I had given you all pretty much said you were open for it. I don't know if you have a selected date. You wanna do it on the night of the planning commission, like from 5 to 7, would it be?
Maybe we have it at Robin Hills Farms. And then have some buy 3 beers in public. I'm sure we can.
There we go.
So I have a question here, this, the survey's coming up next week, how long are they planning to keep it open?
I think to the end of August,
Okay,
so then they can collect the data. And then we can then, present it kind of, you know, have something more concrete. Then have the open house and then they'll start putting things together.
if they end up keeping it open longer, open house might be a good place to.
You know, remember when the folks from the library were here and they would really like to help make sure that they can provide the Sylvan Township survey. I don't know what they, I mean, I haven't been in the mobile unit yet. And I don't know how that would work. What do y'all think?
I don't recall them. That must have been at the
Yeah,
township.
Yeah.
So I'm not.
What-
That stuff.
So where is the mobile unit going to be?
wherever they are, they'll have Sylvan Township survey available.
Okay, so then are we going to ask them to check that there are Sylvan Township residents that are filling it out?
I think so. I mean, well, first I have to ask everybody, what do you think?
Carol makes a good point, right? How do you know they're still?
To me, it would be like, you know, those people who stand on the corner and ask you to sign a petition, you have to just, you show them an ID, that's not. They live here, why would they not want to? But the thought I was having was if they have it available like on a laptop. In the mobile unit.
Or they want to participate.
Pardon me?
The question is, would they be more likely to participate? So,
I would be surprised if anybody, you know, if they had any takers, but I'm bringing it up because. They're really anxious to do things in the community and support the community.
that's
And-
worth a try, yes, you know. What's the worst that can happen? Nothing.
Yeah, you're right.
We can also post things at the library, or they do emails, they can include it in their emails. Then people still have to know that we at least love them.
Maybe, Carol, can you establish a Sylvan Township Facebook page?
Who's gonna run it? But we don't have time, you know.
Website updated.
Yeah.
Were you volunteering?
No, there is a thing that's called Sullivan and the Knowles, one group that's up there.
I'm sorry,
There's one Facebook, it's called Sullivan and the Knowles.
it's a Facebook page.
Yeah. so I
Well,
think
it's not
Kathleen's-
affiliated with the township.
No, I
It's
think
fun.
Kathleen Kenny. I know she's really, she's.
I don't think Kathy Kennedy does the Facebooks, you know, Sylvan, she may be, she may,
Well, I've seen her post on her plate.
I was gonna say, she may post, but I don't know.
So I mean, that's another avenue that you talk with the. Planners.
I would be leery about doing anything that's not sanctioned, authorized by the board on the Facebook. Anything.
No, this is just communication that there's a survey. That's.
Word gets around anywhere, but you know, in my opinion, if it's not an authorized, sanctioned social media site, people are gonna talk no matter what, you
Yeah.
know, but I don't necessarily think that that's something, in my opinion, that you wanna get into.
Well, Sandy, you take that question back to the board, just throw it out there, because I know there is a couple of those groups we can get.
Oh, sure.
The survey, people just to be aware of it, right? I understand your point too.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'd like to see participation driven, because I think last time the, was what, 3% feedback? maybe?
So sometimes they'll put something online, right? And that's how they publish it from. So maybe that gets shared to. Since. it's-
Share an additional channel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just all the different channels. that are out there. And I don't think.
And then where do you stop? Do you put it on Twitter? I mean, you know.
No, I'm
It's
not sure.
there's a point of where, how far do you go with this?
I think the Facebook, those are relatively easy things to do, right? I'm not sure, I'm not a Twitter user, so I couldn't.
I'm not a Facebook user. I mean, for a lot of stuff, you're touching a segment of the population that, may or may not, you know, that may never do Facebook or may never do Twitter.
And a lot of them don't read their tax bills either.
You're absolutely right. I can't tell you how many people said to me, I didn't know anything about it, and it's like, did you open your tax bill? And we had it advertised everywhere last time. And people said, well, I didn't know anything about it, and it's like. Don't know
No, I
what to tell you.
understand, it's just trying to just try to more participation,
Mhm.
means and avenues. I
Well,
still
it's-
think free beer, wow, it's like Hills Farm, we just not more people out there.
Are you buying?
We could ask Robin Hills if they.
You don't think you're gonna go there, because then they're gonna say, what are you gonna give me for it?
Right. Okay. Anything else on this?
Are we having any elections in August?
As I'm aware of, no.
Okay, I think that would be an option as well, but. Our next one's not until November.
Okay, item number 2 has been moved to, once they do business to the July meeting. And comments, concerns from the planning commissioner, so one of the things that came up last week. We were talking about Robin Hills, right, and the usage under ag tourism versus a commercial business, right, so it's really morphed into something that doesn't really support agricultural tourism. So I guess the question is, the other thing, do we make a recommendation to the board that Mr. Fall looks at the ordinance and the activities going on Robin Hills Farm and say, you know, this isn't really ag tourism, or this is something entirely different. And do we need to have a different zoning for them based upon what their business model is?
So that was what he gave you last month. He gave you his opinion and said, this is the ordinance. This is what they were allowed to do under the ordinance. It's up to the planning commission to say you need it or you don't. And if you don't, then that's up to the planning commission to then say, we need to do an enforcement and then and bring it back in, or you need to do these steps. So it's
Okay,
not
no,
too long. That was why he gave you the opinion last month about this has to be related to agriculture, and he gave you that whole list of things, and are these all related to ag? You know, giving you the opportunity to make that call. So it's the planning commission, and I cleared that with all after the meeting, and I says, you guys didn't do anything, you know, didn't say anything about it, so, but at this meeting you are, which is fine. But if that's the case, you need to have that conversation, and perhaps we need to call them back in and have that discussion with them one-on-one. And then say, this is what you want to see as a group collectively, that you all agree. What, either they're fine the way they are, or they're not fine. And what do you want to do about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not what was the vision, the just a name, so, no coordinator.
I missed last meeting, but I do want to read through things to make sure, and it sounds like recommendations made on each of the
Yeah,
events.
I had to go back, re-review that one, I throw it out there just for.
Actually, throw the events out the window. What does that place do to promote ag? There,
Nothing. It's
you know, they have a guy come in and pasture,
40 sheep.
40 sheep there, that's not even there, you know, they don't have. Nothing into it, and he came out and said, you know, growing vegetables, kids don't like vegetables, which. Is here or there too, but it was not.
I mean, there really isn't anything agricultural going on. The other side of it, a lot of people do like this, so. And I don't think necessarily something you want to kill either, so then question. What is the right approach for planning to address the business model? I don't have an answer, I just want. I think we just go back, relook at it. The next meeting, we can talk formally about the various points that we'd like to see. And back to Carol's point, maybe call them back in the other day.
If you want, I will give you the ordinance again. I will give you Thal's letter that he gave you last month again. at the last minute.
Yeah.
Again, you know, and it's really hard to digest that stuff. It's not fair to you guys. I understand that. And I know he's really busy and I try to balance all of that, but at the same time, you're trying to read through this stuff, because I'm handing out to it, I get at 4 o'clock. That doesn't help you make good decisions.
Yeah, and, you know, cause I know they're gonna come back with the fireworks request, right? All the things they're talking about for next year.
Yeah, that'll be in next year.
So I don't think this. Just as I look, this is probably gonna be an incremental type of review where we look at it. Ourselves. Make sure we're all. Comfortable with what we want before we bring it in.
I think that's valid and do it maybe in the fall before they come in with their 2024 events. And that gives them a better time to digest it all and figure out what you really want. Even if you want to have a work session on just Robin Hill stuff.
Well, the question that I had in the last meeting is the whole event permitting process. I would like to look at that and then look at what our neighbors do, because I just seemed untenable. What if I want to do something in January? I mean, that made my head blow up. It was so confusing to me. And it shouldn't be that hard to have a process that's easy for people to follow. And I think we need to look at. what
Yeah,
our
potentially we can do that, but I don't think too many of our neighbors have ag tourism ordinances.
No, we're one of the first.
No, it's the event, it's the
Just
whole
like,
process of doing any event.
Okay, so that's very different, because ag tourism was given special events.
Right.
For agriculture type of activities.
Yeah,
The gathering ordinance is a police power, which allows other events throughout the community, not related to ag tourism.
right.
So the fireworks got coupled with that. They are having it at a location.
Yeah.
That is given a special use for ag tourism. Other communities, whatever they have for their gathering ordinance is, I don't know. But our ordinance for gathering is not a planning commission issue. It's a police power. So that's a board issue. A police power is a board action. Planning commission regulates the ag tourism because it's a zoning issue.
Okay.
That's the distinct difference.
Oh, nothing is ever easy, right?
Yeah.
Jeez, oh, Pete, I mean, it was so confusing to me to listen to this back and forth conversation about. They want to do something in January and I actually have no idea when they can do that. If you're gonna do an event, you have to have at least 5 or 6 months to be able to advertise it. And it just seemed to me that there was no way that was gonna happen for them. That's crazy.
And I will tell you, when the ag tourism ordinance was adopted, it was done with the understanding it was probably gonna have to be tweaked. Because it was new, no one around here has one, but it was adopted and created to accommodate. Robin Hills in the direction at the time that they were going in. So it was done in conjunction with their interests, but also to protect the township. If somebody else, let's say south of the highway or west of here, wanted to do ag tourism, it was designed so it would be a large parcel. And, but those large parcels wouldn't affect too many neighbors and they could all do this ag tourism type of activity. But it was never, I don't think ever thought that this was a be all end all ordinance. I think it was thought that it could be tweaked,
Yeah,
as it went along, but it never got tweaked.
maybe it's time to do that then.
Yep, I wouldn't say it's not.
Even dormant stuff, so there's nothing.
Right, I mean, it's sad.
Yeah, you're right, Tom, about that. We had nothing, we're going full bore the first 3 years and then it kind of dropped off. And so now they're back at it here the last couple of years.
Yeah, I got put into a monthly whiskey club out there. and think, what's it got to do with that?
Right.
I mean, it's not. No, it's just, for me, it's just long term, the intended use. And I'm not opposed to it, I just think it's just really what, you know, collectively what.
Well, they have food trucks. And the ordinance was very clear about the foods that they're supplying out there were to be locally grown. It was to be Michigan, it's supposed to be locally grown. That was why they were allowed a cafe. Now they have a restaurant with a bar. It's a lot different than what they originally, that was that whole packet that you guys got from all the permissions and all the uses and everything that you had, which was, I mean, smooth to sweet. But that was intended to give you the history of how we got to where we are, which is, I don't know how we got to where we are, because that was not really what they were given permission for.
You know, so anyways, let's take a systematic approach to review.
Okay.
Go for it.
Can I get a copy of that?
Yep, I will give you everything.
Okay, Steve, do you like to? Leo? Amy? Tom? Courtney? Okay, so, need a motion to adjourn. Motion by, I'm very second by Steve. The votes at 7:53. Thursday, July 23rd.
Okay, I'm sorry, who motion? And who's?
Steve.
You.
That's the way it is.